Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is a continuation of our sessions on the Blazor apps, which are a number of sessions that we're hosting as part of the MIA series. In the MIA series, we've been hosting Azure team leaders and community user groups leaders across the region to learn from them all about the recent technologies and the updates and what's hot and what's trending. And in today's session, we're continuing this learning journey with Anwar, and we're gonna continue learning about the Blazor apps. We're gonna create some web APIs to insert, retrieve, update, and delete records on an Azure SQL Server. And we'll be having live demos and this is part one of 2 sessions. So the next one will continue building on today's content. As you know, in the Reactors, we are hubs for founders and developers to learn and connect to local peers, as well as industry-leading ideas and technology from Microsoft partners and open source community, and it's also the home to the Microsoft for Startups program. I have the pleasure of leading the Reactor in this region in MIA, which is physically located in Abu Dhabi, but also has reach across the region and collaborations with different communities and Azure user groups as we continue to host this region-wide series. So we continue this learning journey with Anwar, who's a manager for IT application support at Boubyan Bank in Kuwait. He's a super active in the community space, delivering workshops and sharing his resources and knowledge with the regional community. You can always find him on LinkedIn to connect and to ask any question. Please utilize today's live session. As usual, we're recording the sessions and they are available on our YouTube channel, on the Reactor YouTube channel. So before we begin, a quick reminder about the code of conduct. We're all here to learn, so let's keep this environment friendly to everyone and be open to all viewpoints and questions. And I highly encourage you to use the live sessions that we're having to ask questions and interact with our expert speakers because you will have this content recorded and uploaded to YouTube. So please take your time, ask as much questions in the chat during the session, and towards the end, if you prefer to go off mute and you can request that I enable that mic feature for you, but during the presentation we can only have your questions in the chat. Again, to access the event resources and the survey where you can share your feedback about the topics you would love to see in the Reactor, the topics that you would love us to continue with in this MIA series, you can always submit that on our platform. Use the eventID 14531 for today's session when you go on the check-in page. I provided that link in the chat, and I will go off camera now and be here in the background and look at your questions. And yeah, towards the end, if you want to go off mute, please let me know in the chat. That's all for me now. I'm handing over the mic to Anwar to start today's workshop.
Hi, good evening, and thank you, Hassam, for a nice introduction, and thank you everyone for attending today's session. Without much introduction, I will just start sharing my screen. We'll quickly go through the 1 or 2 slides from the presentation, then we will directly enter into the hands-on coding window. There's 2. Okay. You are able to hear me, right?
Yes, audio and video are perfect. I'm just waiting your slides to come through.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
It says part 2.
Sorry.
Are we on the right slides? Let's not take the surprise of part 2. This is part 1, right?
By mistake, actually. Yeah. Okay.
Don't worry. Okay. Don't worry. If it's just a typo, that's fine.
And again, thank you everybody for joining today's session. Today's session is, the first part on developing a Blazor CRUD application. So we'll just quickly go through the agenda. Hold on a minute, please. Hearing now? The agenda, I don't know why.
Yeah, I got the slides back. Yeah, they're on screen.
Yeah. Go to the slides back and forth. That is for. Okay. You are able to see now, right?
Yeah, screen back on. Thank you.
Okay. These are the things we are going to do today, the tasks. First of all, we'll have a quick overview on what we are going to do today. This is what we're doing. Initially, we'll create the project with proper options. There are multiple options for Blazor applications, so we will create the project with proper options. We'll discuss the different options when we create the project. So we'll create the project the best suited for creating a CRUD application entirely, a WebAssembly application. So we will use the the best options available. The third one will be create necessary classes. Then after that we will create the data context. Then DB migration and updates. Then we will create controllers. These are agenda for today. We will continue on the next day. Once we have all these, backend options available, APIs available, everything we are ready, then we will do on the second part, we will do how can we call this API, how to create the, CRUD actions. This will be on the second part from the Blazor WebAssembly application. Okay, so let's go back and let's continue in, I'll start a project first. Here, when we create a new project, we will create a new project. We will do like what we have done last time, but with different options. Okay, we will create a WebAssembly application again. And when we have the next option, I'll put MEA reactor. Here, okay, go ahead and now. Here, in addition to the configure HTTPS, we have to use ASP.NET Core hosted. Why do we need ASP.NET Core hosted? Because we are creating a CRUD application, we need the APIs to be hosted. We can untick this one and go ahead and create the application in WebAssembly only without ASP.NET hosted part. But then we will have to have another application for the APIs, for the web API. Not only that, if we use two separate, this is good. We can do that, of course, no issues. Then again, you have to maintain the course part on the, the web API part, because it will be calling, the WebAssembly will be calling a different browser, and it will not be through your, it will not be directly connected to the hosted API server. It will be, so you will have to manage the course, tags. So the best option will be using ASP.NET Core hosted part. And again, progressive web apps, like we have seen in the first one, it will be very good to have the PWA option ticked. So these are the options. So we will tick all the three available options, and we will continue. Here, authentication type. Now we are not using, but we can do individual accounts if you use. Then the ASP.NET authentication also will be inbuilt to the application, but we are not going into that level now. That can be done if required later on. Again, we are using .NET 5.0, the latest available live option. .NET 6 is about to come, and 3.1 is also available. So the latest one available on live, we are using for this demo. Okay, we have the server, the application with default options created. Now let's quickly go through the application structure first. We have three applications. We have three projects within this solution. The first project is the client one, which is the WebAssembly one. The second one is the server one, which is the ASP.NET host, which will host the backend services, plus it will distribute the WebAssembly application. So whenever we call, actually we will be calling the server application. Even whenever you debug, you will be debugging the server application. The server application will, the server project will build, and it will provide the client WebAssembly application, which will be shown or rendered through the browser. And we have a shared server where we will use our classes and all, where the classes which needs to be shared between the client and the server. So these are the three projects we have, and these are the structures. So today we will be mainly working on the server part and the shared part. Next day we will be working on the client part. Okay, first thing we have to do, we have to create necessary classes for us to do our operations. So what we are trying to do, just a simple one, just to show the insert, retrieve and delete and put options, update options. So we'll be just using a simple class. Two classes mainly. For example, let's consider a simple one, an expense management solution, personal expense manager, for example. So we will have to create necessary, let's say two classes only. One, the expense category, and the expense entry. This is what we're going to do. So let's do one thing. As our third agenda option says, we will have to create the classes necessary for that options. So we'll go to the shared project, and we will add a folder there. Let's put classes. There will be experienced people, please bear with me. We are expecting even novice, participants. So we will. That's why we are describing a little bit in depth or basics things also. Here we will add two classes. One for the expense category. So I'll put reactor. Okay. We will have the category ID, let's say category name. And category description. We will have another class for the category expense entry. So we'll just create another one. Expense entry. We'll put the entry ID. We'll put the, let's say, entry date. And entry description. And we have to have the linking between the expense entry and the category. So let's say DB set, or let's say list. No, here we have to do okay. We'll use the reactor category. Let's put reactor get X. Here, each expense entry will have a foreign key, which will be the from that class, from the React expense entry category class. So similarly, we will put here. We are done with the classes. Okay, this class is not public. There you go. So we have two classes. One is the expense category and another one is the expense entry. Now, we have to have the next one is we have to create the data context, DB context. So we will create a new class. Okay, that should be on the server project. So we will put like we will add a folder called, let's say, data. And let's put, okay, before that, now we have to add the Nuget packages, because for us to do the database related activities, we need to have entity framework core. So we have to add the Nuget packages related to entity framework core. I'll just right click on the server project, manage Nuget packages. You can still do that through the command, but for the time being, we'll use, for our, to do it faster, let's try to use, say, Microsoft Entity Framework Core. What we have, okay, let's do Microsoft Entity Framework. First thing, Entity Framework Core. Install. Okay, Now we have the Entity Framework Core installed. Now we have to do Entity Framework Core SQL Server. Okay, we will be using a local SQL Server now. Later on, once we have everything done, test and all, we can look into how can we just move it or create it on Azure SQL Server. It will be the same, but just for the time being, for for the easiness of the demo, we will be using a local SQL Server. So we have installed the SQL Server also. Now let's install Entity Framework Core Design. Okay. Once we do the now let's do Entity Framework Tools. 4 Nuget packages we need to install: Entity Framework Core, Entity Framework Core.SQL Server, Entity Framework Core.Design, and Entity Framework Core.Tools also. So these are the 4 Nuget packages we need to install when we start the project. That needs to be installed on the, obviously on the server projects, because we are dealing with the data from the server project. So we are done with that. Let's save it and continue. Okay. Now we have our classes. We have installed the Nuget packages, and now we just have to create the, the DB context. On the server, we created a data folder. On the data, we will add, let's start with a class, and we will modify it. Reactor context. Okay, here we have to use Microsoft Entity. We'll be implementing the DB context class. Okay. Let's do a public options. Another one with the options. I'll copy that. There is an option we need to do. Just a minute. Okay, we have this one. Now we have the skeleton. This is the structure of the DB context. Now we have to define the DB context entries. We have 2 classes, so we have to define our 2 classes as entries in the DB context. So let's say public DB set of We have the, what is the name of the classes? Reactor expense entry and reactor expense category. Okay, we have to. Expense category. Suggest we'll use the suggested name. We'll use the same for the other one. Okay. Now we are set. This is what we have to do within the body of the DB context. Now we have to inform the application that we are using the database DB context. So for that we have to go to the startup on the server project. Okay, on the server project. Here we have to use like services add DB context. Use our reactor DB context. DB context. Use the options. We'll use options dot. We are going to use SQL Server, so we'll use SQL Server, and okay, options. Good. Connections to use the connection string from the configuration file. Just a minute. Okay, we'll be using configurations dot. Connection string, we have to define that connection string within our app settings.json file. So let's put a reactor connection. We have to close that. And now we have here these, and we have that one, and then now we have to put services dot add controllers. Okay, now we have this one ready. So maybe sometimes silly mistakes may take your time. And okay, now we are ready with this one. We have given necessary options in the startup, and we have the DB context. We have the classes, and we have mentioned the classes here. Now we have to put the connection string. Then let's do the database migrations and update options. So let's quickly go to the connections string. Let me just copy the connection string which I have locally here. We have to go to the app settings.json file. We will add the connection string here. Here I'm putting localhost and the server, SQL server name, and the database name. Let's put MEA sample. MEA sample, and user ID me, and I'll put 121. This is okay. Now we have the connection string and the name of the connection. Let's see what we have given here. The name of the connection is reactor connection. So let's go and change the name of the connection to this one. Now we have the connection string there. We should make sure that we have a database like this. So let's create a database. I think we have one. If we have one, we have to remove it maybe. Anyway, I just start. Yeah, let me see which user I have. I'll use this user. Let me just make sure the users mappings to the table, to the database. I'll put MEA sample. Say DB1. Okay, now we have the database there. We have to put there. Here we mentioned already. This is the database, and that now currently this database is empty. We don't have any tables. It is just a fresh, small database. Okay. Now we have the classes, we have the connection, we have the DB context. We have mentioned that configure the DB context in the connection with the connection string. We are all set to go, it seems. Now what we have to do, we have to do the DB migration step. We are doing a code first approach for the entity framework. Previously, initial days, it was actually a database first concept. When it is database first concept, you will create the database first, and based on that database, you will create the classes. Here, we are creating the classes and defining it on the DB context, and rest of the things, everything will be done by the entity framework itself. So now when we run the DB migration, and later on when we run the DB updates, it will create the necessary tables, and when you need to change something, it will change the tables behind that. That also, first we will see that one. So let's see, first let's build the project. Okay, all build succeeded. Now let's go to the package manager console. Here, first thing we have to do the DB migration. So let's do add -migration. So for your migration script, you have to give name of the each session or each instances. Because next time when you do, you have to use the second one. How many ever migrations you have done, until you do the database update, whenever you do the database update, it will update all the migration scripts available after the previous run. So that's why we have to give the name. So let's put 01 and let's see, add migration, and we gave the name of the migration as the 01, or initial also we can give. The best option is to give initial. It gives you an error. Okay, the class needs a primary key. Otherwise, we have to mention that it is a table without primary key. So we need the primary key. So let's go ahead and mention what is the key. So our key is the entry ID for that expense entry. We have to put the data annotations. Okay, this class is ready. Okay, and we have this one here also. Component model data annotations also given. Now let's try to run it again. There you go. The migration is created, and we have the first migration. This is the name we gave, and here we have create table script. It will create the table reactor expense category, and the key is category ID, and we are C# it is .NET is instructing the database to create this one as an identity field, one option, and the category name option is there. Category description option is also there. This is the first table. Similarly, the second table, expense entry, and we have the identity for entry ID, and we have two fields and the relationship. Yeah. Okay, and it is creating the relationship entries also. And here, whenever if we want to remove the migration, we have to use remove migration. Then if this migration is called to remove, this will be running drop table, and the second table also drop table. So this is the migration script. So we created the classes only. Necessary script to create the database table, entity framework core is doing it, and it will just create the table. Here, let's see here there is no table still. Still there is no tables. Now let's run the second command, that is update -database. I haven't given for the user. I think we have to change here. User and yep, done. Let's go and inspect the database. Here, let's refresh it again. There you go. We have two tables created, and migration history table also created. Okay, we have two tables with the columns, category ID as the primary key, and category name and category description. Sorry, and we have the other table called expense entry with the column entry ID and entry date, entry description, and the link to the the category. Okay, good. Now we have the database table also created. We have start creating the controllers. Okay, now we can use different options to create the controller. Let's do one thing. I'll do one thing. I'll go. There is a folder already called controller. This is for the weather forecast, which comes by default. This controller actually reading from the table. I mean from the file, from the JSON file. Let's inspect this controller first. It's an API controller, and this is the root controller. Here it implements the controller base, and when it starts, it creates this entry with the options. It creates the summaries entry with this what is the strings or phrasing, phrasing, chilly, cool, and all. Now, when we request the get one, when we call the get REST API, then it creates that one and returns the value. First time it adds the how many hour days we have to need, and it considers and takes that summary, and that summary is it created, it returns to the array, and that is what we are getting. Here we will be doing the similar one with the database option. Now it is not taking from the database because it is taking from the JSON file, where it is mentioned, it is configured in the app settings, and it is from there it is taking that one. The same similar one, like we configured the database. Here in our case, we will be taking a new one. So let's do one thing. Let's add a new class. Instead of adding a controller, let's add it as a class, and we will configure it, because otherwise it will be adding. Okay, let's do one thing. Class name. Class name. Reactor expense entry. You don't have to necessarily use the same thing, but it is better to use the same. Okay, we have the class. We have to give another using what we have to offer. ASP.NET we have to offer. Now, when we will just copy quickly, because we have already we have 10 minutes. I'll copy from the available one, and I'll describe it to you just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, I'll go to sample. Okay. What was our name? Oh, okay, I didn't share you, right? Just a minute. Okay, here I just copied, I will just change it to what is the MEA reactor. Word out, what was that? We have to have the get one, so we will use okay, our name of the class reactor. Okay, here we have to, okay, let's say category. Okay, there are two types of get we can do. Without any parameter, you can get it will return all the values. We will be using that here. Yeah, that's here. Okay. So for the time being, okay. Here. Okay. Now here we will do one thing. What we need to get expense cat tags, and we will get to list. Okay, here there is ID. So if we provide ID, it will be finding with the ID and give you that option. Okay, this will return. Okay. It's a single one, so let's put. Here we have the first get with the parameter ID. We provide the ID, so it will be like, let's say 2. Okay. We are not using the authorize option because that can be done. You have to protect your API by using the authorize option, by implementing either the identity from ASP.NET identity or any other options, and you have to protect your web API. We are not going into that level. We will be using without the authorize option, but I just put it there for you to understand and for me just to mention about it. Okay, so we have the controller base. Okay, we don't need this. We have the data context here. We have first the get. Now we can do by name also, because normally when we do, that's why I told you we will not use the default options, because it will create just normal get and post, put and delete only. But in our application we may need more by, let's say, for searching, by giving a part of the expense category, expense description we gave. That option also we have to use. So let's say by name, and get the category by, let's say, category name. You don't need first to use expense category, and here's where the let's say name, category name is equal to, and yeah, that's all. This is the categories. Okay, we'll put this categories, and here, if you want to include, when you inquire about a category, and if you want to get the list of entries within that, you can use that class, the subclass include, and here you say, let's say, here we will say category. Category, yeah. Okay, to the expense entries, and we will include that also to the list. So when you search by a category by name, it will not only it will give you that related category or categories, it will include the entries within that category also in the response JSON. It will be a JSON with mainly into the category structure, plus the list of category expense entry we have ended by using that category. Okay, here we have, okay, this is for the post. Okay, we'll use the category. So we have to get one is with ID and another one with the category. Even we can create another one which will give the full list. Let's do that also. Okay, get category without any parameter. Okay, so it will. Yes, okay. Okay, here. Sorry. Okay, it will return the list of categories, all the categories into the list, and we will get that list. So we have that one, and we have a with one ID parameter, it will return that one, and we have with the name parameter, it will be, we have to call it like this. So let's say We are using API, yes, API controller. So we have to use it here. Okay, the name of the controller is okay. The controller name here. Okay, here this one by name, and we have to use the same category name. Here we are. Okay, that's why I think we will do the post and delete in the next one because it's simple. Okay, we'll do the post also quickly. Okay. Okay, we have to add category. ID. So what we are doing here, we are putting the post and delete into the same one to avoid confusion and to do it one. Oh, that is what we'll do now. First one category greater than 0, then because we are trying to. This is not needed. This is wrong. Let's say expand categories dot add. We will put category. Okay. Same changes. Return category. Okay. Otherwise, we will put. Okay. This is for the post. It will take this object and it will add into the list of objects and it will insert that one into the database. We can create a delete one separately, but instead of that, we can use the same thing for for easily manage it and due to some other options also. So we'll do one thing. Okay, let's do one thing. We have created get and post. Now we need to have the put one or the update one and the delete one. So let's try to do the update one within this. So let's say if category ID greater than 0. In this case, it's for update, and otherwise it's for delete. So let's put this. Otherwise it is for post. So let's put this post one here. When we give the post call, don't have the ID, it will be 0 because it's an identity field. So if it is 0, then that means it is to add. Otherwise, this is to post. So let's put this one, for example. Let's put find. So find async category ID. Here var category to edit equal to this one. Okay, now if the ID is greater than 0, That means the call is to update. So we will take that ID and get the the entry from the database, and if it is modified, we will update it. So okay, we don't need to do this first of all, actually, because we have the cat tag, so we can just okay. Very is equal to the cat tag. We are taking that from the database and updating the one which we have, and we are changing and saving the changes into the database back, and we're returning the updated, the one which we got back, and to make sure it is updated and we received a positive update. This is what we are doing in the post, and we are managing the put also here, the update also within this. Okay, now let's see the post entry, I mean the delete one. We'll just use this and so to delete. Okay. Remove, we will put okay. If it is null, then we'll put not found. Otherwise, we will remove it from the database, and we have to put save changes. We may have to enhance it a little bit. We may have to enhance the return parameters that we will be doing in the enhancement session. Currently, we have all the 4 options. We have 3 kinds of get. First one will get the full list. Second one get will do the ID. So we have to see HTTP get. Okay. Then we have to do the HTTP get this, then HTTP post, and we have to do the HTTP delete also. HTTP delete. Here also we'll be giving the object in the body as the object, so we don't have to give that one, not in the header. So we have all the 4 options available, and we have let's build the project. Let's see whether it is built successfully or not. Yeah, 1 succeeded and 2 up to date. Okay. Just to make sure. Okay, all the 3 projects are up to date. So now we will just quickly go through, and we will stop it here for the time being. Then we will call these APIs from the application directly. We are not going to use Postman, or we are not going to use any other tools to call, because we will be using Blazor application, and from there itself we will be calling and going to the next day. So we will have more hands-on feedback and updated info, how it is interacting with the API and what it is actually doing. So that's why we will be doing it in the next session. We'll just quickly go through what we have done today. We have, first of all, we have created the project with the ASP.NET hosted option, and we created 2 classes with expenses and okay. We have to do the same thing controller for the entry also. It will be a copy just like what I did. We will have to just change it. It will be similar to the same what we have done. So I'll be just doing it because I don't want to waste our time again, do the same practice. So I'll not do it now, but this is the same. So we have 2 classes, and we created in the server project, we created the data context, DB context, and we configured it, the database connection on the app settings.json file. And then we did the database migration and database update. Here, I'll just show you one thing we need to create. For example, in the class, here we have, okay, we forgot to add amount. So we need to add amount. Okay, so let's say table. We just added a new parameter to the class into the entry. Now let's see how it will update. We have to just go here again. We have to do the add migration again with different names. So let's put 02. Quickly, I'll finish it now. Just a minute. We have the migration script to the add column and the drop column. This is the table name, and we have the float data type, and we have the name of the column, expense amount. So we have to now we have the migration script. If we run update database, it will update whatever changes we have based on the scripts pending. So I'll just put again the update database. And okay, that is also done. So we have it here. Let's see the table. Okay, entries. If we okay, so here it does not have now. Let me just refresh. Okay, the amount is also there available. So this is how the database update, database migration, and the database. The migration script and the database update works. So we created that. Then we created that DB context, and we created the migration scripts and updated the database. Later on, we created the controller with 4 options. The put and the post, we combine together into the post. This is a different method. If you want, we can use separately the post and put, but the same function will give you the purpose, and it is easy to manage, and there are different like, let's say, user-friendly benefits for that. I'll come to that when we do the the Blazor interface activities. That time I'll mention you what are the benefits for that, combining it together. Okay, that's all for today, and yeah. Now, if you have any questions or inquiries, please.
Thank you, Anwar, for today's session. And yeah, we got some time for the members' questions. I posted in the chat the part 2 registration page, so you can find it on our meetup and not miss the part 2, where we will continue this topic. And also, yeah, if you prefer to go off mute, let me know in the chat. And if you want to go and ask a question, like by audio, then we can enable the mic for you.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, there's a session tomorrow.
Yeah, please feel free to mention. There's something happening tomorrow that.
Yes, KSA based and in coordination with the Ministry of, I think, Ministry of IT of Saudi Arabia, Microsoft, and we are doing together the session. It's related to the .NET MAUI, the multi-platform application user interface. You all know that we have, initially we had Mono, then Microsoft acquired Mono and it was named as Xamarin. Then we had Xamarin iOS, we had Xamarin Android, and we have the Xamarin Forms, Xamarin.Forms, where you can do the cross-platform development by using the single code base. And the evolution of Xamarin, it's the MAUI. So we'll be quickly going through the basics or introduction to Microsoft.NET MAUI tomorrow. We will have to see the time exactly because time zones are different. Anyway, we can share the details, maybe, you know.
I reposted that on our meetup as well, so that our members get to attend it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so as usual, the session is recorded and will be available soon on our YouTube channel. Make sure that you are subscribed and also part of the meetup community. If you're not already, of course, you can be part of multiple reactors now that we've been all streaming online, and with some locations around the globe coming back to hybrid events, we continue to be live streaming all these workshops. So this is an opportunity for you to keep learning and benefit from all the reactors around the world with the content that we're bringing and the speakers and experts that we're hosting. You can also subscribe to the newsletter, which is a monthly curated newsletter highlighting some of the interesting series and workshops that are happening in that month. I don't see any questions for today. Make sure that you don't miss part 2, where we continue today's topic. I posted that in the chat and also posted the event that Anwar is speaking at tomorrow. With all that, I would like to thank you all for attending and thank Anwar for continuously coming to the reactor and sharing his experience with the community members and delivering these workshops. We will continue working together and bring you all the interesting topics and updates from the different speakers that we host around cloud development, AI, data science, and all the diverse mix that we aim to continue having in the reactors. Thank you all for attending one more time and have a great rest of the day. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.